friends. So another important job to have when people were expanding westward across this country was, of course, being a cowboy, right? People traveled in covered wagons and then they settled in places and they raised horses and cows and cattle and things like that. And so cowboys were, like lumberjacks, considered strong and valuable people in America. And today's tall tale is again by Stephen Kellogg, written and illustrated. It's about Pecos Bill. And again, was there ever a Pecos Bill? Maybe. But this story definitely stretches the truth about Pecos Bill's strengths. Pecos Bill. Back in the rugged pioneer days when Pecos Bill was a baby, his kinfolk decided that New England was becoming entirely too crowded. So they piled into covered wagons and headed west. The clan considered settling in East Texas until Bill's ma noticed a homesteader putting up a shack about 50 miles away. Another crowded neighborhood, she grumbled. Let's push on. Look where she is, and look where the shack is. Where's the shack? All the way over there. So, not so crowded, but I guess she really wants a lot of space, huh? As they crossed the Pecos River, Bill threw out a fishing line. But when the Texas trout nibbled, Bill was yanked overboard. He was towed far downstream, and he would have drowned for sure if an old coyote hadn't grabbed him. Her family adopted Bill and taught him the ways of wild creatures. By the time Bill had outgrown his breeches, he felt like a member of the pack. He loved to romp with his coyote brothers, and as he grew older, he sometimes played with the bighorn sheep. One day, a drifter named Chuck stumbled across Bill while he was taking a nap. He asked Bill what he meant by snoozing in the brush without his trousers. Trousers or pants. Bill tried to explain that he was a coyote. Horse feathers, said Chuck. You're a Texan, just like me. Bill decided to give life as a Texan a try. He borrowed Chuck's extra clothes and peppered him with questions. To tell you the truth, said Chuck, most Texans are flea-bitten outlaws, and the worst of them are the Hell's Gulch gang. But even they would be okay if they'd become ranchers and herd the longhorn that wander hereabouts. Ranching sounded good to Bill, so he headed for Hell's Gulch, determined to recruit the gang. But Bill's plans were interrupted when he was ambushed by a giant rattlesnake. When Bill dodged the snake's fangs, it slapped its coils around him. The snake squeezed hard, but Bill squeezed harder and didn't let up till every drop of poison was out of that reptile, leaving it skinny as a rope and as mild as a goldfish. Then, before Bill could catch his breath, he was tackled by a critter that was part grizzly, part puma, part gorilla, and part tarantula. They wrestled up and down the canyon and kicked up quite a dust storm before the monster finally became so dizzy he had to stop. There he is, the creature. No one had ever tangled with those two varmints. No one had ever tangled with those two varmints and lived to tell the tale. So when Bill met up with the Hell's Gulch gang, they were thunderstruck. That means stunned. Who's the boss of this outfit? Bill asked. I was, mumbled Gunsmith, but now you is. Bill told the gang he was going to turn every last one of them into respectable ranch hands. But the men claimed that Texas cattle were much too ornery to ever put up with ranching. Again, ornery means like wild. Bill had a sudden inspiration and he approached a longhorn that was skulking nearby. Just as the bull whirled around to trample him, Bill snagged him with the rattlesnake and yanked with all his might. Cattle roping had just been invented. And again, you can see that this story is full of exaggerations from creatures that are part gorilla and part wild cat and tarantula and inventing cattle roping. Bill scared that bull out of its skin with a blood-curdling coyote howl. The embarrassed creature hightailed it off to grow a new coat, while Bill cut the hide into strips and passed them out to men to use as lassos. Then, cowboys and cattle tangled in a rough and tumble hullabaloo that is remembered to this day as the first Western rodeo. When it ended, the gang declared they would be cowboys forever, and they promised to help Bill round up every steer in Texas. Bill needed a horse to ride on the big roundup. Well, said Chuck, there's a wild stallion in the mountains that some folks call Lightning. Others think the name Widowmaker suits him better, but no matter what you call him, he's the most. But no matter what you call him, he's the fastest, most beautiful house horse in the world. So a stallion is a male horse, and some call him Widowmaker because a Widowmaker would be like he's so wild that he kills the men that try to ride on him, and then their wives are left with no husband, and that's a widow if your husband dies. When Bill went off in search of Lightning, he saw him. Bill knew he had found the horse for him. Bill chased Lightning north to the Arctic Circle and south to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Finally, he cornered the stallion and jumped onto his back. Lightning exploded from the canyon, leaping and bucking across 3 states. Then Bill began to sing in the language he had learned from his coyote family. He sang of his admiration for the stallion's strength and promised him a lifetime of partnership and devotion. When Bill was done singing, he offered the horse his freedom, but Lightning chose to follow him forever. This is a very beautiful illustration, I think. With Pecos Bill and Lightning leading them, the cowboys whooped across the state of Texas, rounding up every last steer. But their high spirits collapsed when they were faced with the job of driving that enormous herd back and forth between the summer and winter ranges. To silence their grumbling, Bill set up the Perpetual Motion Ranch on Pinnacle Peak, which was so high that the top remained in winter while spring and autumn turned into summer at the base. Again, a completely impossible task. A team of prairie dogs helped Bill to fence off the mountains so that the cattle could wander through the seasons unattended. Bill's plan worked fine, except that Pinnacle Peak was so steep the steers fell right off whenever there was a breeze. The men had to work harder than ever carrying the cattle up the hill. Bill solved that problem by inventing steers with very short legs on one side of their body. Even in a windstorm, these cattle could stand securely on the slope as long as they kept their short-legged sides uphill. Now that is just silliness. Look at this picture. So these cattle have one set of long legs and then a set of short legs so they can stay on that steep mountain without sliding down. That's just so silly. Now, the men at the Perpetual Motion Ranch had all kinds of free time, and Bill became known as the world's greatest cowboy. But the high point of Bill's life came when Slewfoot Sue passed by on the back of a catfish. Bill was instantly in love and hollered a proposal of marriage. Sue agreed on two conditions. First, Bill had to buy her a wedding dress with a bustle, and second, he had to let her ride Lightning to the ceremony. And there's Slewfoot Sue on the catfish. The first request was easy. Bill galloped to Dallas and brought back the fanciest bustle dress in the city. Sue's second request was not so simple. Although Slewfoot Sue was a first-rate rider, the moment her bustle touched the saddle, she was blasted skyward. Sue soared around the moon and began the long descent to Earth. She landed squarely on her bustle, but quick as Bill was, he couldn't get to her before she bounced back into outer space. Time and time again, Sue hit the ground and rocketed back toward the stars. Sue probably would have sailed back and forth forever if Bill hadn't lassoed a tornado to help him catch his bouncing bride. The pair of them clung to that careening storm until it blew itself out over California. To Bill's amazement, he and Sue landed on top of his ma and pa's wagon. And the bustle is that big puffy part of her dress, like where her behind is. And so she was bouncing on her bustle. Funny. Bill couldn't believe his kinfolk were still searching for a home site. Kinfolk means family. He told them that they could spend the rest of their days roaming, but they'd never find a place equal to Texas. Everyone returned to Bill's ranch for a wing-ding of a family reunion, and today their descendants are still there, happily herding cattle. I hope you enjoyed this tall tale, friends. I'll see you again tomorrow with another.